Hi, my name is Wendy Castillo, and I'm currently a Miami-Dade Corps member at Teach for America. These past 2 years I have taught first, second, and fourth grade, while concurrently studying for my master's degree in education and social change. My master's degree has focused on both inside and outside school factors and using them as a vehicle for social change. I have found that bilingual education is a great way to narrow the achievement gap for Hispanic populations. What separates Hispanic populations from other marginalized groups, such as African Americans, Caucasians, low-income Caucasians, and Native Americans, is that Hispanics have an extra hurdle of learning another language. Now, through bilingual education, we can level that playing field and make sure that they become proficient English speakers and even proficient Spanish speakers. Now, according to the Digest for Education Statistics, school dropout rates for Hispanics are at 20%. That is 4 times that of Caucasians, which are 5%, and twice as much as African Americans, which are at 10%. College attainment rates are also low. Hispanics are at 13%, while Caucasians are more than double at 32%, and African Americans are at 19%. In Connecticut, 13% of the population is of Hispanic origin, but it is important to note that Hispanics are the fastest and largest growing minority group in America. Therefore, this number is going to increase. We want to make sure that when it increases, we have informed and educated citizens, because as we can tell from the last presidential election, they determined the winner. There are 27,000 English language learners in Connecticut public schools, and the predominant foreign language is Spanish. Now, there's different types of bilingual education support programs. One of them is called Pull Out, where students are pulled out from the classroom and given extra support outside. Another is called Early Exit, where they exit usually in elementary school or after 2 or 3 years of being immersed in English. And then there's Late Exit, where they exit 5 or 6 years later when they feel that they have finally gained English competence. And the one that I am advocating for is dual immersion. Dual immersion is half of the day in English and the other half in another language. It's basically learning 2 languages in one day, 50-50. Its origins date back from the 1960s in Miami-Dade. With the influx of Cuban refugees, they wanted to make sure that they were supported. And now, over 400 programs exist in the United States that follow dual immersion, and only 5 of them are in Connecticut. There are many myths attached to bilingual education, and that's why bilingual education is not in every school. But in an ever-increasing global society, it is important that our future generations are equipped with bilingual skills. And these myths are merely that, myths. The first myth is that bilingual children have less exposure to each of the languages they learn, rather than just learning one language in depth. Therefore, they master neither. The next myth is that learning 2 languages in early childhood can confuse children and cause developmental delays. Now, the benefits that have been studied at the Early Bilingual Lab research lab show that there are cognitive, social, and economic benefits to bilingual education. Cognitively, it increases your brain tissue density. It enhances your analytical and problem-solving skills. It also heightens your understanding of language structures. You understand how languages work, more than one language, and you have double vocabulary in 2 different languages. Socially, you have a strong sense of identity. And that's because learning another language is learning another culture. And when you learn another culture, you become sensitive towards other cultures, and you understand their identity and establish your identity. And you also build a wider communication network, because now you can speak to more people. And that in turn gives you wider job opportunities, because now you're a more desirable candidate. Now, in a study done by Thomas and Coyer, who are leading scholars in bilingual education, they compared native language speakers with dual immersion programs and ESOL pull-out programs and early exit and late exit. This line right here shows the early pull-out. So every time that they were pulling children out and providing services, that here proved to give the worst English proficiency rate that actually increased and then decreased. And the other ones in the middle are both early exit and late exit. They were not very good at making students become proficient in English. and the middle 50% is native language speakers. And this blue line that I hope you can see through here, but I'm not sure if you can, it goes all the way up here is where my finger is. This is the dual immersion. Dual immersion proved to provide more English proficient speakers than simply speaking one language, monolingual native, or using the other different types of bilingual education. Now, this success is around the country. It's happening in Texas and it's happening in California. Now, Texas and California are always the leaders in education. Now, for example, after 6 years of implementation, a dual immersion program test scores in San Antonio increased from 18 to 80%. What's important to note here is that after 6 years of implementation, we saw significant test increases. Change, and especially long-lasting change, does not happen overnight. It takes time, and especially to reap the benefits of learning another language usually does take around 6 years to really gain a good grasp of the second language. Now in California, there are over 50,000 children enrolled in dual immersion programs. And in one school in Chula Vista, the API score, which is how California ranks schools, out of 1,000, they received 880. And the reason this is remarkable is because 3 years earlier, when they did not have dual immersion, they were on the federal watch list for worst schools. So dual immersion really did push and provide that extra support for their English language learners. Now, we always talk about California and Texas, but Utah is also pioneering the efforts. They have over 80 programs, and 15,000 of their students are enrolled, not only in English-Spanish programs, but also in English, Chinese, French, and Portuguese. And by 2014, they want to have over 100 programs and 30,000 students enrolled. As I mentioned before, Connecticut has 5 schools that follow this. One of the schools actually just offers dual immersion for 2 grades, 5th and 6th. But out of the other 4, which have well-established programs, 3 of them are doing great. John C. Daniels Magnet in New Haven received 3 years in a row the prestigious Magnet Schools of America Merit Award in 2009, 2010, and 2011. The Multicultural Magnet School in New London, Connecticut, CMT scores were on par with the state and the district. 85% math proficient, 72% in reading, 82% in writing. Silverline Elementary School in Norwalk, Connecticut also had similar scores, and their population is about 60% Hispanic and 57% who qualify for free and reduced lunch. Their scores were 84% in math, 68% in reading, and 70% in writing. Now, we can implement this in Connecticut, and the way we can do this is by following the magnet language schools that are already there, or we can establish new charter schools. Either way, we have to have at least 50% of the staff be bilingual in order to ensure that our students are really receiving a genuine, good bilingual education. And it needs to start at elementary schools, not starting at middle schools and not starting at high schools. Because according to the critical theory hypothesis, elementary is the right age to start a new language. And if we follow our students through K-12, then they graduate not only bilingual, but biliterate, speakers of another language, writers of another language, and readers of another language. Now, because this program does not support middle and high school current students, we need to help them as well by giving them the extra support they need. So therefore, we must build partnerships with nonprofits to support middle and high school English language learners. Now, although I propose this to narrow the achievement gap for Hispanics, really bilingual education should be for everybody. It can help any community. If a community feels that they want their children to be bilingual in Chinese, then they can make their school be English Chinese. Our generation is the future, and I really look forward to working with the Zoom Foundation and the Connecticut government and really ensuring that our Hispanic populations are getting the support they need, and we can narrow the achievement gap by working together. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video, and I hope you learned something about bilingual education that you didn't know before. Thanks.